Hey, everybody, this is Perch. What do we got here? Marvel announces the Heir of Apocalypse. Well, that was Archangel, and that was in Rick Remender's X-Force run. But somehow I suspect this mail is not about that. Let's see what it says. It says, hey, hello, Perch. See, if I was a good video editor, I would edit out that cough. But I am not. So this is what we got. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of mails lately, like, hey, if you wanted your channel to be more successful, you'd do this, and that. And it's like, okay, yeah, again, you don't understand what I'm doing here. I'll just leave it at that. Hello, Perch. Marvel is gearing up for the relaunch of X-Men after the Krakoa era finally ends. I tried to keep myself from getting too excited because, well, it's Marvel, and they specialize in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. That is true. Marvel just announced a 4-issue miniseries to help bridge the end of Krakoa with the relaunch, and it's titled X-Men Heir of Apocalypse. Now, cards on the table, I'm an unapologetic Apocalypse fanboy, so I was cautious just seeing the title. Next, I see it's being written by Steve Fox, who has been writing those awful comics set in the X-Men animated series universe and the universally ignored Dead X-Men book, so that wasn't great news. Pardon me. See, that'd be another edit if I was a good... Yeah. The pitch for the story is that Apocalypse is leaving Earth to take the throne of Arakko and probably hang out with Poochie. So since he'll be gone, he needs to make an heir to take on the role of Apocalypse on Earth, which is utter nonsense. Sure, Remender tried to introduce Apocalypse as a title that in Sabur inherited, but that was based on nothing and immediately and rightfully ignored by every succeeding writer, not to mention it was being blatantly retconned by Hickman and Hoxpox. All right, I like that Rick Remender series, but for what it was worth, the idea was that kind of the infection of Apocalypse, and it wasn't just Remender. I mean, this dates back even further to, some of the stuff that was set up in Age of Apocalypse when Apocalypse was killed and Wolverine wound up being the new Apocalypse. Anyway, but it was more around the life seed, death seed aspect. And it wasn't I'm going to pass along the torch of Apocalypse. It was more along kind of the death and what that would mean and kind of the infection of evil from when Apocalypse transforms somebody. That was more the idea. But anyway, everybody's free to like or hate whatever they want. But I think what's being described here, what Marvel is doing, is something very, very different, which is more along the lines of kind of like Captain America, Steve Rogers going, well, I know you've been called the Falcon, but now you can be called Captain America as well. It's more of a passing of the torch kind of thing, which for a character like Apocalypse does seem kind of stupid. Also, pardon me, that Dead X-Men book is legit terrible. But anyway, it says also Hickman retconned Apocalypse's survival of the fittest mantra, having to do with preparing Earth for a future war with Arakko, which is now no longer an issue. But back to the story. To find his heir, Apocalypse assembles 12 mutants. I know what you're thinking. We're wrapping up the Krakoa era that was so heavily influenced by Destiny with a callback to the 12. Is this what Moria was reading Destiny's Diaries for? Of course not. The 12 here are Armageddon Girl, Cable, Cypher, Emma Frost, Exodus, Forge, Gorgon, Mirage, Mr. Sinister, Penance, Richter, and Wolverine, Laura Kinney version. So the only member of the original 12 is Cable. I guess Archangel is too busy running X-Corps. Not sure if they'll have an actual tournament or if this is the Ten of Swords all over again. It's just another game show. If this story is anything to go off of, I don't think the X universe is going to get any better for a long time. Yeah, we're about to get the announcements of the new X titles. Probably by the time this video comes out, it will have been announced by now. But the early indications are terrifying. Sorry, not terrifying. Just don't leave me with a lot of confidence. The least of which is, it certainly appears like they're going to be wrapping Jed McKay into this. And, you got to stop with that. You're going to burn that guy right the hell out. It's a terrible idea. But anyway, sorry if this is long-winded. It's just frustrating watching Marvel continue to mismanage characters I've loved for years. All right. I don't think there's a question in there, but I guess I'll give a prediction. Who will be the next Apocalypse of that group? I mean, the smart money would go with Exodus, with a little bit of, side bet on Gorgon if they're trying to kind of establish a new villain. Gorgon is not really, a big name. And so this would give kind of elevate him as a threat. And Exodus makes some logical sense, I guess, sort of, based on kind of, his mutant messiah. And I mean, you could kind of go with that. But given that it's Marvel in 2024, you have to assume it's Armageddon Girl is going to be the character they go with. Although, hell, giving Laura Kinney a third legacy title would be pretty amazing. I don't know. There's not a question in that video, but or in that mail. This is the video. Other than why do this? Does it make any sense? And I guess where I'm kind of at this point with Marvel more than DC, but both companies, is that a lot of the people writing the comics have not read or really digested the earlier comics, or are kind of being told, hey, look, you don't really need to care. That comic is too old. I know some editors have said things like that. Like, I know some writers who have pitched things that go really deep into continuity. And I know some writers who have also kind of prided themselves on knowing these stories. Like, hey, one of my favorite things was this backup story that happened a long time ago. And I want to address it and kind of, tie up that loose plot thread from 1986. And editors have said things like, yeah, don't bother with that. Nobody remembers it anyway. Like, that's just going to confuse readers. Like, just pretend that anything more than 10, 15 years old is non-existent. I have heard the X Office say things like, if it predated Grant Morrison, you don't really need to worry. You don't need to really mess with it. If you think about that, you think about some of the X stories and think about some of the decisions that have been made, it starts to make a lot of sense. Like, why are they ignoring all this stuff? Why are they ignoring, the vast majority of X-Men comics that have been printed? Well, because they're being told if it happened before Grant Morrison, it doesn't really matter. And that's a take, but that's why you see some of the decisions made that have been made is because of that. For that matter, I know several of you were not fans of this comic, but if you remember from some of the live streams, we used to have Jeff Thorne a lot when we were doing live streams, and Jeff Thorne was busy writing Green Lantern. And one of the things that Thorne was doing was he was trying to address this, this power, this history that John Stewart had that hadn't really been addressed since, Millennium. It had been a while. And he was also bringing in some of the, threads from the Legion and other things. He was going into deep continuity. And he was supported by his editor from all sides of it. The comics did come out. But I think one of the things, again, that would have made that series land better, or at least be more commercially successful, whether you're a fan of it or not, is that, even kind of DC saying, hey, this springs from, our history, our legacy. This is a story from, our distant past. We're finally tying up some of those things and giving you a resolution to some of it. That would have played well with customers. They typically appreciate stuff like that. They like, a lot of the comic readers, granted, I know they're all dying off in droves once they hit the old age of 40, but still, people like that. And one of the things about manga that has been popular is the fact that a lot of the series do have tight continuity, and then, the series ends and they don't keep going back to it. But, every moment counts. Oda-san, who's done a lot of goofy shit in One Piece over the years, has said every moment counts. And if you're a big One Piece fan, you're introduced to this whale, Laboon, and the fact that they were able to do a callback and bring that moment back, 400 episodes later, or stories, chapters later with Brooke, it gives some additional weight and positivity and goodness to basically reading all these books. And if you're trying to attract a customer base, you'd think you'd want to send the message of every story matters, every moment counts, and hey, we may dive back into something, from years ago. It's a good thing. But That's at odds with kind of the behavior of Marvel at the moment, which is, if it's older than Grant Morrison, don't worry about it. Again, I don't know if that's a company-wide statement, but it's been said by editors there. And you see you see some of the reaction. So in the mail, they said, well, what about the 12? Well, several of you, listening to this video, so let me know in the comments if you even know what the 12 is or the history of that. But this is something that was in the 80s and the 90s, the 12. These are 12 special mutants, etc., been identified. I guarantee you the Apocalypse picked 12 mutants. Probably, Steve Fox, the people involved, probably do not even know that was a story or that was a thing. It's just a happy accident. It's 12, or maybe somebody knew. Once upon a time, he had this 12 thing in the X-Men. It's like, oh, cool. Well, we'll pick 12 then. But it's a wasted opportunity is what it is. Anyway, what do you think? Who will be Apocalypse's heir? It's going to be that Armageddon girl, isn't it? Anyway, let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, of course. We're almost to 49,000 subs, which is fucking amazing. Anyway, thanks for listening.